Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tech Champions. I'm your host, Daniel Beaty, CTO with AuditMax in Jacksonville, Florida. As you know, we take time each week to sit down with thought leaders and industry experts in the field of technology. We always have amazing guests on the show. Today, I'm especially excited about joining us from Pensacola, Florida is Jim Walker. Jim, welcome to the show.
Nice to be here, Daniel. Thanks.
Yeah, glad to have you on. So, Jim, I know you currently serve as the CTO for UiPath. But looking over your history, I mean, you've served in some amazing roles over the years, really. Department of Defense and NASA and just some pretty crazy places. So maybe just start by telling our audience a little bit about your personal journey to this point.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. Appreciate it. Yeah, I really have. I'm originally from Mississippi. Joined the Army, did about 10 years as a field artillery officer, was in Desert Storm, and got out. And right about that time, that was 1992 or so, technology and that was just really starting. And there weren't a lot of jobs for field artillery officers that got out of the Army. There were two. They're both in Denver, and they fire a cannon every year to make avalanches of snow. So I got into technology, and it's really been great. I worked for the Air Force Personnel Command and Training Command, went around the globe helping them with this global command and control system. And I worked out in Key West, Florida, with a counter-drug organization that comprised of 15 or so government agencies that focus on counter-drug operations in the Gulf. It couldn't be more exciting every morning to come into. Left there, went to the Defense Information Systems Agency, deployed what was really the first Zoom or Teams, that type of thing, for the Department of Defense at the beginning of the war in Iraq. And it really was a great technology at the time. The Missile Defense Agency, amazing things what they do, led operations there in Huntsville, Alabama, and the data center, and kind of wrapped up my government career with the NASA Shared Services Center, which was an amazing opportunity for me because I wanted to really understand the difference between public sector and private sector, that shared services model where they try to turn an extra penny of profit so they can roll that back into the services of NASA. Just great. So I really have had a fun opportunity, and all that's culminated in these last 3 years of my career working with UiPath and the team that we have here in the U.S.
Yeah, that's great. And tell us a little bit about UiPath. Kind of what's their mission?
Yeah, so UiPath is let's say a couple of years ago, a robotics process automation company that was helping to automate and emulate human behavior on your computer for what we call repetitive mundane tasks. Simple things like the reconciliation of spreadsheets and vouchers and things like that. Last year, we put out and published our platform that really takes automation to include AI and ML and chatbots and brings all that together in the government workforce to help them serve citizens better and to provide us a better way to have better government internally. And when we talk about it a little bit later, some of the numbers that the government is seeing as a result of this, that they are putting out, is just incredible. So our company, about 2,500 people globally, 300 or 400 here in the U.S., it's just one of those exciting startups that at the end of a career is just so invigorating to be with.
Yeah, that's great. And, it's funny, Jim, when you're talking, I think I've been in technology a long time as well. And I think about the old days when I used to write macros and run macros and things like that. Those are kind of the very beginnings of some of your RPA type technologies. Of course, all of the stuff you do is next level. That's great. But it's interesting to see how all that's progressed. And we'll talk more about the automation piece in a minute. But you had a couple interesting thoughts on kind of that state of modern IT that I wanted you to talk about for a minute. You say IT is becoming democratized. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I remember when we first started technology. When I joined the Army in '83, there was one computer in our artillery battalion, and it was on the back of a 2.5-ton truck. Soldier over in Iraq today has a watch, has a phone, has his work phone, probably has a camera that's feeding data into a system, probably in a Humvee has some type of actual computer. And all of this data is going back into the organization. In addition to that, everybody is their personal CIO these days. They know how they configure their system at home. And as a result of that, they want to be able to do things at work that allows them to work the way they know how to work a system. And so where it used to be kind of Wizard of Oz, what's behind the green curtain, how's this all running? Today, we all know what technology can do. So CIOs are sometimes challenged to say, well, yes, it can do that, but we have some security concerns. And the business end of something would say, yeah, well, you got to mitigate those security concerns. We need to be able to work this way. And when I say business end, I really am talking about government agencies who are trying to do passports faster, or to help with COVID vaccines better, or to bring people back into the U.S. before we shut down for the COVID virus.
Mm.
You know, I'm not talking about just business dollars and cents, but actual service to citizens type business.
Right. No, yeah, that's great. I think you're absolutely right on there. And you also, we talked a little bit in our pre-show about how IT needs to be both guardians and enablers. And I like those two words. Can you talk about what you meant by that?
Certainly. So I want all of my personal identifiable information, my PII data, secure. I want that HIPAA data, that hospital information, medical records, all that secure. And so they have to be, the CIOs have to be guardians along with the CISOs to make sure that the infrastructure and the firewalls and the behavior of employees not click on every email that comes in that says your order is late and you think, well, I don't have an order, but let me click on this anyway. So there's a responsibility to be a guardian, but there's also a responsibility to be an enabler and to be able to help people say, okay, in the case of RPA, you can have citizen developers and have some of your smarter employees that like the logic of computers build your automations out for you. Now, the guardian needs to go and review those and make sure that you're not exporting data out to some cloud service, that you're not sending an email address that's a personal email address versus your work address. But as a true enabler, I need them, the CIO's office and the technology offices, to say, let's be more Uberish. Let's be more technology friendly, where we're trying to expedite and speed up things and not say, oh, we can't do something because we've never done it that way, or it'll be a little slow. We've never allowed people to have access to it, so we need to do it in the CIO shop. So combination of enabler and guardian is what's going to be required to really be a respected technologist today.
Yeah, I love that. And it's always a balancing act for sure between those two things. And it's been interesting to me to see over the last decade plus how IT has been forced really to become more part of the business. It used to be put the blinders on and I'm going to fix your computer, right? And now they have to understand the realm outside the IT department. So that's been a lot of fun to watch. But let's jump in and talk about the automation piece for a minute or two, and RPA. So, and you said to me earlier, automation it's not coming, it's here. So can you give us some examples of how automation is changing IT right now?
I sure can. Yeah, I hear people a lot of time talk about the future of work, and I go, wait, the future of work was yesterday. All of us do our banking, when we drive up to a teller machine, regardless of where that machine is, whether it's at our local store or if it's at a bank. We're used to technology in the private sector. In the public sector, we want our government to be faster. I want to be able to sit during a Saints game next season and to be able to do something with my bank. I want to be able to change my insurance, but I also want to be able to pay my taxes or renew my license plate just from the same seat during halftime. And so we're seeing in federal government, there was a young airman that's out in San Antonio who he went online, downloaded our software, learned on his own, built a solution, a prototype, if you will, took it to his captain and said, this solution here is a repetitive, mundane task, but more important, it's a task that we do thousands of times a week for our airmen to help them move from one duty station to the next. And look how easy this is, and I don't have to do it anymore, so I can spend time, and his example was wonderful. I can spend time with an airman who's got a child with special needs to try to ensure that we get them to another Air Force base that has the capability to help with those special needs. At the end of the day, it's not about our technology being great. It's about our technology helping make that human activity better. And so we're seeing that across there. The General Services Administration had a person who built their own bot. Now they're leading the federal government's efforts with what's called the Federal Community of RPA Community of Practice. At the NASA Shared Services Center, they were auditing some of their travel vouchers, as all federal agencies are required to do, but they're able to have a bot do these audits now. So think about the nuanced change. Before, 10% of the documents were audited by a staff of, let's say, 5. Today, 10% are still audited, but they're auditing the 100% that the bot said these 10% probably do have a problem. So as an employee going into work, when I used to have to check 10% and maybe none of them had a problem, that wasn't fulfilling. But if I'm going to sink my teeth into a record that is, potentially a problem, money that shouldn't have been spent, money that should have been spent, I'm going to be able to help a DMV person out in California get their license renewed during the middle of a pandemic. I'm going to be able to help a food stamp recipient in Georgia ensure that they stay on their food stamps program during the pandemic because they're due for renewal, but there's so many people that need new food stamps as a result of this. I'm going to put all my human workforce up there. I'm going to automate the renewal process in the back. Or I'm one of 300,000 people in New York State that needed their unemployment stuff processed. How are you going to bring enough people in during the middle of the pandemic to process those? They automated and cleared 300,000 backlog with robots in like 6 days. It's amazing what it does, and nobody that needed that insurance is mad that it was done in an automated fashion. Nobody that needed the food stamp renewal is upset that it was done in an automated fashion. And the people who needed new food stamps were happy to have a person face-to-face helping them through what had to be a trying time for them and their family.
Yeah, that's great. I love that example. That's awesome, Jim. And, it's easy to see as we're talking about how, it's the automation, then it's a trickle-down effect, right? So then if it's done in the government organizations and other companies, the consumer really is the winner at the end of the day, because they get their products or services faster, or they experience those efficiencies, which is great. So I love your example there.
We've got one quick example for you out in California, because I do think it's COVID hits. There are things that people are doing today that they never had to do before. And in California, they needed to report or employees getting their shots, but they needed to have people entering all that data. Well, this is not a time you want people entering data. They have an automation that will allow that data to be read off of a card and fed into a system and uploaded for them, freeing people to do the business end of government, which is people-to-people support. And so it's just incredible, some of the things that we're seeing with bots that are doing really drudge work, not going home and saying, hey, today I did 1,000 lines on a spreadsheet and I might have gotten it all right. It is, I found a problem when the bot gave it to me and I saved our government money, or I sent money to a citizen who was due some money. It's all about the end result of better government, better service to customers.
Yeah, I like that. That's great. And I do want to ask you one question just about robotics, like, robots specifically. To me, it still feels futuristic. To you, it probably doesn't. Do you foresee a time that in the near future, like how far away are we from people having like service robots in the home and things of that nature? It feels far out there, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, there are certainly a lot of examples of that we're seeing them start to come out. Now, I'll take the self-driving car as an example. They're available today. They're not available on the road, if you will. They're being tested on the road. And so they are coming. And I hate nothing more than driving, because there's no opportunity to learn while you're driving. I can't talk to the person next to me and focus on them and really get involved with the conversation and not worry about the truck in front of me. So I'm one of those that says, bring on self-driving cars. I want the flexibility to go where I want, not on a set of train tracks. But I would just suggest to you, and I just finished laughing about this yesterday with my wife, I watched the latest series of the Star Trek Discovery. And I have never seen a single sci-fi show where it was all about ships flying all over the universe. Every ship has people. All of those people apparently have the same problems we have today. The fact that they can make their Earl Grey tea out of a machine is great. That big old ship still needs people to pull the dilithium crystals. It still needs people to press the energize. So I don't think that this automation is all taking our jobs and we're all going to sit around and wonder what to do. I think it's just going to change us, give us the opportunity to do things and discover things that we don't realize we can discover today.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So one final question we ask each of our guests, Jim. What's one characteristic you think it takes to become a tech champion?
Oh, that's a good one. I believe you have to be a lifelong learner. I mean, I started learning about RPA about 4 years ago when I was with NASA and we put out our first bot and I moved into UiPath. But since then, machine learning, chatbots, artificial intelligence, all of that has come along. Blockchain, Bitcoin. What in the world is Bitcoin? Who understands it? Tons of people do, and they're making money off of it. A lifelong learner allows you the flexibility to adapt and adopt that none of the rules, none of the standard type of things allow you to do until you appreciate I need to be a lifelong learner to be successful.
Right. I love that. That's a great answer. It's fantastic. Well, Jim, thank you so much for being on the show. Hey, if people want to reach out and learn more about you or UiPath, what's the best way for them to find you?
LinkedIn. It's easy. It's Walker-Jim, and I'm happy to connect with people and always love to watch their comments and to read the posts that they have. So please.
Okay. Well, Jim, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it. Very insightful, very interesting. So thanks again. To our audience, thank you for joining Tech Champions. I'm your host, Daniel Beaty, and we'll see you next time.